It is so responsive to the angle of view, the participant's angle of view, the environment, the clouds. What I'd like to draw attention to the observer would be how you enter passages. I personally love coming up 123 from the south and seeing it appear and spread out, and also on Canoe Hill Road as you're coming up to the corner, you see a peak of it. The intention is to invite the passerby to perhaps take a chance, pull over and at least look at the piece and perhaps venture out of the car and be intrigued enough with this light and glimmer and reflections, besides the beautiful landscape, to take a walk through the path. So each of the passages kind of leads you in. For some time now, I've been playing with these different material that I use in passages. The dichroic film, which I think is very interesting and captivating, actually. It has a quality of both reflectance and translucence. And that, coupled with the cast vinyl, which is the design of the labyrinth, the shapes of that make up a labyrinth, they reflect off of each other. The steel frame is simply a vehicle to frame the material. I take the dichroic film and applied it to acrylic panel and fastened it to the face of the steel portal. And the other side, as I said, has that cast chrome vinyl, which is the design of the labyrinth. And that too is put on a second acrylic sheet, which is then fastened to the portal. And the two play off of each other a lot. I actually, just before coming here, I stopped off at a friend's place of business, a sculpture buddy of mine, and we talked about the next level of how I would do this the next time, using a lighter material, to visit passages in as many different times of day or weather. I tell you that early in the morning is really quite special. I was here a couple of weeks ago when it was very overcast and they glowed like they were lit from inside, and I have no idea how that happened. To visit passages in as many different situations, times of day and weather, to experience the different changes, and to take your time as you're walking through, seeing yourself and whomever you're walking with reflected in each of the portals, to pause and take in this really beautiful meadow that's captivated me for as long as I've lived kind of around the corner. Well, as I said, I've been playing with these different material, the dichroic film and cast chrome vinyl, making basically like two-dimensional works. What I did when this call for entries came out, I thought immediately, it took like 1 second, because I knew the spot where I wanted my work to be, and I thought to create signposts going through this beautiful meadow. And so I thought to create frames, tall frames, with which to sandwich that steel frame with the dichroic film, cast chrome vinyl, but I needed to see kind of the proportions, what would work. And I built a maquette, actually 7 of them, that I photographed for the submission for this call for entries. And each maquette, each piece was 22 inches high, something like that, made out of the same wood. I used wood frame and the same material, the acrylic and the dichroic film, and I played with the different angles and discovered actually quite a lot by using that maquette. And let me also say that when I found out that Passages was accepted into the land trust, I went, oh my goodness, how am I going to build it? Because the truth is, I've never done anything like this before. You know, I've on much smaller scale, but never on this scale. It's like the dog that gets the bone, you know, it's a really big bone. Now what am I going to do with it? And it was a process of discovery, actually. You know, how can I make these? And there was also time restraint, too. Almost 2.5 months or so between notification and when the work was to be installed. So it was a full tilt boogie, you know, getting it all done. I was so incredibly moved by by Passages being chosen to be installed first. I felt honored, and then I felt, I might get a little emotional on this one. I felt responsible for pulling this off. As I say, I'd never done anything on this scale before, and it's a daunting project. The moment I pressed send on my submission, I turned to Debbie and I said, you know, I'm going to build it anyway, no matter what. So the truth is, right after I pressed send, I ordered the material to proceed with the fabrication of each of these portals. But the truth is, I felt so incredibly moved that the board or whomever thought of installing Passages in the face of this pandemic. I want to thank them for that deep honor. Each and every one of the people on the committee that chose the work, I have the utmost respect for. I also felt that each and every other artist would feel the same way. They deserve every single bit of honor and praise and audacity of being an artist and creating work for no good reason except to just do it. So there are three things. There's the material, there's the environment, and there's the participant. Each of those elements react with each other in the piece. As you're walking down the path, Debbie and I noticed we could see ourselves walking through the passages in 4 of the pieces all the way down because they're placed at the same angle. And also another thing that's quite important is that Passages looks different each and every moment. It is so responsive to the participant's angle of view, the environment, the clouds, the angle of the sun, and a myriad of other things. It doesn't celebrate a 50th anniversary, but it does celebrate nature by virtue of seeing the participant in nature, reflected and refracted in the portal. There are a couple of spiders that have actually taken up residence, I noticed. I'm liking the thought of them being all blissed out by this, you know, ever-changing dichroic film environment. Like, wow, come over here, it looks really purple. So it changes every moment, you know? It's like us. We're changing every moment. The world has changed. We've never been here before. And that's the majesty of being a human being, I think, is that knowing that everything changes all the time. And it's how we respond to it. There was a time, maybe 7 years ago, I had a still practice of sitting meditation. And then I'd long heard of the Labyrinth, walking the Labyrinth. And so I then sought out labyrinths nearby where I could experience a walking labyrinth. There's a beautiful one over in Norwalk at St. Paul's on the Green. Beautiful little lovingly placed labyrinth. And it was there as I was walking the labyrinth, I got to the center and I looked at my feet, and dare I say, like I had a moment. I saw I was going to spend some time creating sculpture based on the archetype and the architecture and the symbolism embedded in a labyrinth. I looked at my feet and I saw a fractured labyrinth. So I created that piece, and thank goodness it's no longer mine. It's such a rich tradition, not only meditation, but also the labyrinth. It's not only medieval. The labyrinth is so simple and elegant. It's the same path in and out. You can't get lost. You can't take a wrong turn. It's all clearly laid out for you. The symbolism is an inward journey, the journey within. I use it as a moment of reflection, introspection. The labyrinths that I've walked in, I actually walked in Chartres Cathedral, and the stones had a story. And although 2/3 of the labyrinth at the time I walked it were covered with chairs, could only do a bit of it, it still had quite an effect on me. The symbols on one side of each portal is taken from the Chartres Cathedral labyrinth, a detail of a drawing that I did of the labyrinth, and I blew it up to fit the panel, and I laid out the portals in a progression to lead you from one place, one spot to another, creating an interest in the graphical symbols of the labyrinth. Some pieces are very magnified, where you only see a tiny portion of what was the labyrinth. And several of them, you have a further back view. So I'm creating, hopefully, an interest in the scale and how the participant would walk the path, going from each portal to the next, noticing the scale change and noticing the different architectural details that make up a labyrinth.